Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where, things are pretty bleak, but it's 2020. Take a look around. Hollywood was nuts to think that they would remain untouched during this pandemic, when every other industry has been hit hard, especially because they're an indoor activity. And huzzah! It seems that while people disagree about many things in this pandemic, it seems that almost everyone does distinguish between indoor and outdoor activities and why that is such a big thing to pay attention to. Because theme parks are crowded, outdoor restaurants are crowded, and many of us feel too crowded. But those same people who feel that activity is okay aren't willing to go to the multiplex. If you're one of those people, stay safe. Good luck to you. You're really rolling the dice. But I think we would be curious to know why you're okay going to a crowded restaurant or a theme park, but not a movie theater. Is it the indoor-outdoor distinction? Because it can't be money, because those things cost money to do as well. Although the theme parks, you do have, at least in Florida, California's not open yet, but in Florida you do have a lot of locals with annual passes. So I would be interested to know, because Hollywood's like, what the hell? And we told them to build drive-ins. We told them. All right, so they were like, we don't want to. All right, so anyway, Tenet is soldiering on in a war for movie theaters that did not go the way it thought it was going to. And it pulled in another $3.4 million for its entire fourth weekend. Oh, that's so bad. That puts Tenet at $41.2 million domestic to date and crawling ever so slowly towards the $300 million global total that was originally predicted by the trades as like a conservative estimate. Originally in my notes, I wrote worst case scenario estimate. It wasn't. It was like, well, at least it'll make $300 million. Although I think Christopher Nolan and Warner Brothers thought it would do more, because nobody would release a movie if they thought it was going to truly underperform to that degree. And it really didn't help movie theaters, to be honest. So, oh well. Now, Tenet, again, as we've discussed so many times at this point, but just in case you don't remember it, it needs about $500 million to break even. And as we discussed last weekend when I broke down in depth who won between Tenet and Mulan, it will likely get to $500 million thanks to PVOD and the ancillary market. So at least Warner Brothers won't end up losing any money on Tenet. But they're not going to donate any more movies to the cause of keeping theaters open. They're just not going to do it. The government needs to step up. And every time the theaters and the trades beg the studios to release a new movie, they're wasting time. They're wasting begging time. Then they could be doing that to the government. Although right now, of course, the government's a little preoccupied. All right, so anyway, 75% of movie theaters in the U.S. are open right now. And sure, well, they have to operate at reduced capacity. There's always some of you who are like, but Grace, movie theaters can only let in so many people. Look, Tenet is really the only movie playing right now. And because of that, it's able to play on a ton of screens every day for 4 weeks now. If people were really willing to go to the movies in numbers that mattered, Tenet would be a lot higher than $41.2 million. Again, as I came to the conclusion last week, there is no way to release a blockbuster right now that makes sense financially, either in theaters or even on streaming. It can't be done. And the fact that it can't even be done on streaming is scary stuff. I heard that I heard from someone I know in the, someone who works in the industry. I don't want to say anything else, don't want to give them away, but there is a problem now even in selling scripts, because they've kind of hit, they're too overbooked going forward. Since all the movies are moving to 2021, there's no space to put a new movie, so there's kind of a freeze on making new films. And there's also a backlog of things that need to go into production. So you're still seeing headlines of projects being greenlit, but only major films are able to be greenlit at this point. And so even though Hollywood was able to do okay at the beginning of the pandemic, I think you're on the verge of seeing some real problems with people in the Hollywood community in being able to work going forward. So we'll see how Hollywood deals with that. It's going to be tough, especially because the second wave, scientists say, is coming. We're going to have stuff to talk about, unfortunately, on Movie Math. All right, so anyway, here are the numbers for all the movies that have tried to give it a go in theaters during the pandemic. And again, as you can see, they are not good. There's no spin that can be put on them. They're horrible. And the majority of people clearly do not feel safe going to movie theaters right now, and movies are a mass consumption business. So let's talk about what moviegoing is going to look like until November, when No Time to Die and Soul try this again. That is, again, unless we're deep in the second wave by then, as some scientists are warning. Numbers are currently starting to already go up. I'm hearing from some of you that manage movie theaters, you wrote to me privately, that sure enough, your theaters will be reducing operating hours, both in terms of how many days a week you're open and how long on those days you are open. So you should be thinking in the near future, your local theater will probably maybe open just Thursday to Sunday or Thursday to Saturday with only evening showings. That one threw me. One of you told me, they said, my theater's not planning to do any matinees. I would think matinees would do great business on the weekends, but of course, theaters are looking at these numbers. I would only have evenings maybe on like Thursday and Friday, but I would probably do Saturday, Sunday all day and Sunday matinees, but no Sunday evening. I'm curious, what would you do? What do you think would be the ideal programming for a movie theater right now to stay open but not go under because of operating expenses? So also, movie theaters and the trades, as I said, need to stop begging the studios to sacrifice their big blockbusters. It's just not going to happen. And you know what? It doesn't need to. Because as you can see, the re-release of Star Wars Episode 5 was competitive with the new releases that are out there. So the studios really just need to open up their vaults to keep, I think, the people who want to go to the movies coming. Also, there could be a real opportunity for smaller picks with big stars that are still committed to being theatrical exclusives. And there are two such movies coming up. The War with Grandpa, which hits theaters October 9th with Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken and Uma Thurman. That's, a lot of people are in that movie. And then Freaky with Vince Vaughn comes out November 13th. I would move that up so it's available for around Halloween, quite frankly. But you know what? These movies need their space to do well, as we can see with what's going on in theaters right now. But both these films I think might actually be the best programming yet for the pandemic, because they look like a lot of fun from their trailers, and they're the kind of light, widespread crowd pleasers that have been missing from the multiplex, again, during this pandemic. So yes, expect those movies. I think that, that's just two, but I think those two and Tenet would probably be enough considering how little business there is right now, and fill it in with some, some releases from the vault, movies that people would love to see on the big screen, with not too big crowds. I think Warner Brothers is planning to play Tenet in theaters until the holidays, like when Wonder Woman 1984 and Dune hit, if they hit. Now, in my opinion, though, that itself is a bad play. I would not keep Tenet in theaters that long. Warner Brothers is like, it's going to be like the old days when movies would play for months. I think, Tenet's done. It has 3.4 million this past weekend. Everyone who wants to see it has seen it. The only asterisk is that whether or not New York and Los Angeles will open. And, Deadline said that they're hearing that that's a chance, that in the next few weeks, New York and Los Angeles could maybe open up their theaters. We'll see. Although New York's numbers have just started to go back up, and their theaters aren't even open here. So we'll see what happens. If I were Warner Brothers, I would give Tenet a few more weeks to see if New York and LA do open. But if they don't, I would start looking for a PVOD date, not streaming. It's not going to go to HBO Max yet. It's going to go to PVOD first. Well, first you'll pay to buy it, then you'll be able to pay to rent it, and then you can subscribe to HBO Max to get it there. But I would start looking for that date where there isn't too much streaming competition, because the word on Tenet now is meh. And so I think you don't want to have too much competition up against it. But I would lock that in to get that movie on streaming, because I think that it's as I said, it's played out theatrically. Everyone who wants to have seen it has seen it. So much for seeing it multiple times, right? But people maybe would, that should be the selling point when it goes up for sale first. You're like, what? You want me to pay $25 for this movie? It's a pandemic. And you'd be like, look, you're going to need to watch it multiple times because it's tough to hear and tough to understand. What are you doing, Nolan? But because the sound mix is apparently so bad, as many of us have experienced on his other movies. What did Michael Caine say before he died in Interstellar? Nobody knows. I'll never forget being in the theater when that happened. I could hear everyone around me go, what'd he say? He was dying. It must have been important. Nobody knows. Do you know? If you do, please tell us. All right, so yeah, I would be like, that's the tagline. I'm like, you're going to have to watch this 3 or 4 times, so it's worth the $25. So what would you do with Tenet if you were Warner Brothers in terms of how long you keep it in theaters and when you would bring it to digital? And what would you make be the selling point? Well, I think that would be that's a fun little game to play. We have to amuse ourselves. It is a pandemic. All right, so as for what people are streaming, we've hit a little bit of a lull here in terms of releases because the streaming services, they don't have an infinite amount of content, even though it does seem like they do, particularly Netflix. So they're holding a lot of it for October because that's the month of Halloween, and that's the biggest consumer holiday after Christmas. You might not have the money to spend, but you can't help yourself. I've already bought a bunch of Halloween stuff, and it's just sitting in my apartment with me it's too early for me to open this, but I have it because I'm really looking forward to some holiday cheer. I plan to spend more than I usually do on Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas this year, especially because I can't go out and get that holiday cheer like I used to. I have to create it at home. So I need more decorations. All right, so anyway, I'm curious what your holiday plans are for the pandemic. All right, so anyway, don't forget, Hubie Halloween. We're doing 2 watch-alongs for the Halloween holiday. I have my candy already. We're going to watch Hubie Halloween on October 9th, that's a Friday, and then we're going to watch The Nightmare Before Christmas probably on a Sunday later in the month, and I'll know that date soon. I'm excited. That one will be later in the month, though, so we can spread them out. All right, so on iTunes, Jessica Chastain had a #1 debut thanks to aggressive pricing, very aggressive pricing. Antebellum was only available for $19.99 for 48 hours, 48-hour rental, whereas I think it was a rental for Antebellum, but you could rent or purchase the Jessica Chastain movie for very little money. So that offset the horrible reviews for it and the audience reaction. Colin Farrell, maybe don't always say yes to everything that comes your way. I mean, Jack Nicholson, as I've told you, so famously told Terry Garr, Terry, an actor acts, but I don't know, Colin Farrell might be really testing that advice. The Outpost and Father of the Bride also had sales, which helped them do quite well. Plus, the latter got a boost from the reunion over on Netflix's YouTube and Facebook pages. I ended up not watching it, even though it sounded like a cool idea, because I just can't take any more Zoom reunions. They're all the same at this point to me. Over on Netflix, it took Enola Holmes a few days, but the Millie Bobby Brown and Henry Cavill movie was able to unseat the Ryan Murphy Sarah Paulson series. It's hard for a movie to go up against a series in these top 10 lists because series, of course, have more hours to watch. But Enola Holmes did it and claimed the #1 spot. Camp Cretaceous and Cobra Kai continue to rally. I'm going to watch Cobra Kai soon. So many of you have recommended. I'm getting excited. While fellow new Netflix original series Sneakerheads debuted just inside the top 10. And Netflix also continues to benefit from the strategy of releasing old movies with big stars because they're new to you. For instance, 2016's The Take, which never got a U.S. release. It was called like Bastille Day overseas. It's been in the top 10 for weeks. So I'm very happy for Idris Elba and Richard Madden. And I haven't watched it yet. I did recommend it to some people, though. They were like, what should I watch? And I was like, how about The Take? I'm keep looking at it in the top 10. And one of my friends had a really great time, and my other friend wasn't impressed. So if you've seen The Take, is it worth clicking on? All right, so I do love Idris Elba, though, in particular. All right, so I just have so many screeners to watch. So sorry, critic problems. All right, so on Disney Plus, you know what I did watch? So look, Superheroes Meets Princesses was a big hit. And only The Simpsons could beat it out because, again, just the sheer volume of content of the Simpsons seasons. Now, I got roped into watching this movie. It's a movie because some other people I know were watching it, and so we kind of like had a watch-along, gathering. We're like, you watch it, I'll watch it, then we'll talk about it. So I watched it. And it was cute, right? It was up there with The Descendants, which interestingly they recommended to me after I finished watching it. And I was like, I've already seen it, thank you. All right, so plus another new Disney Plus original managed to debut in the top 10, Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom. So that's 2 Disney originals debuting in the top 10. They're doing it. All right, also though, I want to point out, as many of you have, that Moana, like Frozen, continues to dominate the top 10 week to week. So where's the sequel, Disney? Disney has announced a redo of the Polynesian Resort in Florida, and it's going to incorporate Moana characters. So at least it's got that going for it. As for what's coming up, we have one more relatively quiet week until things explode the week after. Oh, it's going to start to get good. But we have one more quiet week. So what you have this week is tonight, Fargo debuts on FX. Also, The Comey Rule on Showtime, although I did a poll, an informal poll yesterday on Twitter, and none of you seem interested in The Comey Rule whatsoever. But it airs tonight and tomorrow night before the presidential debate on Tuesday. I can't believe the election's so close. Vote. Vote, vote, vote. So anyway, Wednesday, Netflix drops The Boys in the Band, a film adaptation of the hit Broadway revival, which I actually watched last night. I told you, I got a lot of screeners to go through, and I'm going to review that tomorrow. And then on Friday, Hulu drops Monsterland, which they really haven't advertised at all, but it's going to be available. So what are you watching? What do you plan to watch? And how would you cheer up Hollywood right now? They sure could use it. All right, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.